What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So tomorrow, we have Nintendo's next big release coming out, and that is Switch Sports. Reviews went live yesterday, but strangely, Nintendo had one key component missing from the entire process, and we're going to go over that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about a big-time sales update for Microsoft with the Xbox, showing a pretty big improvement for them when it comes to the overall market share. And we also have several massive sales going live right now on the PlayStation Store with some pretty good discounts. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below and ring that notification bell so you can keep up to date with all the uploads here on the channel. And we're going to start today with an update to the story around PlayStation and their premium tier game trials. We had went over one of the reports mentioning that they were going to be 2-hour trials for any game that was wholesaling above $34. Question was, are the developers going to be required to create this demo or set it up in a certain manner while Sony pockets all of the money for that premium tier? Well, not completely, but we can see this tweeted out. This from senior writer over at Kotaku saying, source tells me PlayStation Store team will create the 2-hour timed trials for developers, so it shouldn't be extra work, though I've heard concerns from others about Sony monetizing a perk and not sharing that revenue with studios. I mean, that's technically a good point. So Sony's going to allow access to some of these premium priced games, full price $60, even $70 games for 2 hours, and they just kind of keep the premium tier subscription revenue. And the fact that you would then rely on the PlayStation team to have a 2-hour window of your game available to customers, I mean, there's a lot of trust there to put into them. So I almost feel like you'll have these developers still opt to set things up themselves to put the game in its best possible light, but I guess we'll see how all of this shakes out in a little over a month. Also, we did have PlayStation Plus games for the month of May revealed. We can see this nice little card that was released over on PlayStation blog. These are the May monthly games, and you'll be able to claim these, and I recommend at least doing that, but taking a look at this, nothing really jumps off the page to me. You'll be able to claim these starting May 3rd all the way until June 6th. But we have FIFA 22, that's for PS5 and PS4. Tribes of Midgard, that's PS5 and PS4, and then Curse of the Dead Gods, PS4. And I always tell people, whether it's PlayStation Plus or Xbox Live Games with Gold, you might as well claim them and add them to your library. You don't have to download them immediately. You just claim it'll be there, and maybe you'll want to go back and check out Tribes of Midgard or Curse of the Dead Gods, or who knows, maybe FIFA 22. The thing with this lineup here is, like I said, there's nothing that's really exploding off of the page to me. But hey, maybe you want to try out FIFA 22, or maybe you've heard of Curse of the Dead Gods and you want to give it a shot, you'll be able to do so here heading into May. Like I said, at least add them to your library. Oh, and we did get a sales update from Capcom around Devil May Cry 5. We can see this over on Gamatsu, where they say Devil May Cry 5 sales top 5 million. What we have from Capcom is an entire list of some of their major intellectual properties and just the history of sales combined, where you have like Resident Evil at the top and then Monster Hunter behind that, and then Street Fighter. But Devil May Cry has been slowly working its way up the charts now, with Devil May Cry 5 coming in at 5 million units sold. I think that places it about 250,000 behind the best-selling Devil May Cry game, and that's Devil May Cry 4, so I would say for the most part, Devil May Cry 5 is on track to surpass that and become the best-selling game in the series. It's been out for about 3 years now, so I would say for the most part, Capcom would be happy with this one, and yeah, I'd expect another Devil May Cry at some point in the future. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Nintendo Switch Sports. It's out tomorrow. I'm gonna be picking this one up because I think it's gonna be a lot of fun to play with some of the people on the Spawncast and just friends in general with games like bowling and badminton and probably tennis. We'll see about that one. But we've seen the previews around this, and now reviews are live. We can see the Metacritic score here, currently sitting at a 75, which is about in line with Wii Sports when that released in 2006 with a Metacritic score of 76. So it's like right there. In fact, I could see this potentially going up to a 76 and basically just matching Wii Sports. This is currently on 32 critic reviews, with the split being 18 positive, 14 mixed. I saw one of the high reviews sitting at an 85, and on the lower end, it's at a 60. The biggest thing I've read through here and noticed from most of these reviews is that it's basically what you expect it to be. There's nothing surprising. There's no real deep content available. It really is just the mini games that you're picturing and them working fairly well, some being more enjoyable than others, and a lot of this is stuff we already heard in the preview where everyone was praising things like bowling and then kind of knocking things like volleyball as being very simplistic and not that interesting. But there was one issue here, and it's a very strange thing for Nintendo, which is that there's no online available for reviews, and that to me is what really sets this apart from Wii Sports back in 2006. I am seeking out some nostalgia, I'll admit, with Switch Sports, but the idea of going online, adding that extra component to play against other people and seemingly unlocking different things for your character is like one of the biggest driving forces of buying this in the first place. And that's the biggest thing I was going into these reviews looking for, is how is that online experience? And I mean, Nintendo with online's always been kind of a sketchy thing in the past anyway, but they have been getting better, and they're coming out with a lot of online games right now over the next 12 months or so, and this was going to be a large one for people to jump into and play against a bunch of people online with bowling. So it's a very head-scratching moment when we realize that the reviews don't include any kind of commentary or description around that online experience that for a lot of people is going to be why they picked this thing up in the first place. I assume probably servers are live starting today, going into its release tomorrow, and for the most part, we're all going to find out for ourselves when we pick it up, which I will be picking it up, we'll be playing against people on the spawn cast, probably do some recording of it, and maybe post it up at some point as like a fun gameplay cut-up video for maybe that Spawncast Clips channel. Maybe that needs to become like the Spawncast Gaming channel. Let me know if you would like to see us play against each other in all these different games, maybe like Mario Golf and just a few other ideas we can throw out there. But I'm sure at the very least, we'll be all picking it up and then talking about it on the Spawncast Saturday night, so make sure you look out for our impressions then. Next up, let's talk about Microsoft's quarterly earnings report. This is for Q3 of fiscal year 2022, and obviously this will cover Xbox and give us an idea as to which way it's trending, which if you're curious about how much money Microsoft made, well, we can see this here. Post up revenue was $49.4 billion. That's increased 18%. It's, Microsoft not really hurting for money. Operating income was $20.4 billion. That increased 19%. If we go over to Windows Central, they give us a bit of a breakdown here for the Xbox side of things, with gaming revenue up 6% year over year. And the company attributed the growth to a 14% increase in hardware sales attributed to the Xbox Series X and Series S, while content and services also increased by 4%. On top of all of this, we had some comments from Satya Nadella, who's the CEO at Microsoft, with investors saying, "Our ambition is to empower gamers to play when and how and where they want. With our Xbox Series S and X consoles, we have taken share globally for 2 quarters in a row, and we are the market leader this quarter among the next-gen consoles in the United States, Canada, UK, and Western Europe." Now, I assume he's saying next-gen consoles because most likely Microsoft isn't comparing themselves to Nintendo with the Switch. We know Nintendo themselves even will say we're not comparing us to them. So Microsoft and Sony are basically the ones going at it here. And yeah, based on what we've seen with the NPD sales reports and everything, it does indeed look like Microsoft is just getting more consoles out to retailers, and we've heard stories around them paying for chip priority, and I mean, it wouldn't shock me if that was true. You just saw the amount of money Microsoft is making now, and the fact that they are setting themselves up with things like Game Pass in the long run, paying a bit more for chips currently just to kind of get through the chip shortage, and eventually we assume will alleviate maybe into 2023, isn't a massive deal for them. It's a drop in the bucket for future prospects of much larger revenue. And based on what I'm seeing online, whether it's in the comments of these videos or just on places like Twitter and Facebook and all this, people are regularly spotting the Xbox Series S in different retail stores like Walmart's or Best Buy's. The Series X still not as plentiful, but it is popping up, whereas the PlayStation 5, you just never really see anywhere. And based on the MPD sales results showing it was like Switch, then Xbox, then PlayStation when it comes to units sold, and then the Xbox at number 1 when it comes to overall revenue, just kind of shows how different things are going when it comes to stock for the PlayStation and the Xbox. And this is actually in a time period where we're not seeing the massive releases from Microsoft. Starfield is towards the end of this year, and that's going to be a very interesting thing to follow to see if it really does drive Game Pass subscriptions as well as hardware sales. Those are two things I would expect from a title like that, but then you also get into several other games they'll be releasing over time, whether it's Fable or Perfect Dark or eventually Call of Duty and several other Activision Blizzard titles. Yeah, things could really start to snowball for Microsoft as long as they continue to keep the stock at a decent enough level, and this is at a time where there's an overall shortage. If we get into the years where it's not as much of an issue to find the Xbox or a PlayStation, then I think we'll really start to see how things shake out. But hey, hats off to Microsoft. They're navigating this pretty well. Next up, let's talk about a massive sale that is currently going on for the PlayStation Store. It will be running until May 10th, and we can see this on their deals page. There are two different sections. One for Golden Week, that's up to 75% off, and then we have one for games under $20. We'll quickly take a look through both of them, starting with the Golden Week, and Shadow Warrior 3 down to $30 there, which is pretty good. Lost Judgment down to $30. Guilty Gear Strive, I'm not like a big fighting game Guilty Gear guy, but I have heard a lot of good things about that game being high quality. That at $39. Persona 5 Royal Deluxe Edition at $21. And look, Shadow of the Colossus down to $13. That's actually a good pickup there at $13 for that one. Tetris Effect Connected, that's at $24. Ace Combat 7, that's the Deluxe Edition, at $12.74. Dragon Quest 11S, that one's at $26. Castlevania, this is the collection that has Symphony of the Night and Rondo of Blood. That one's $5. Jumping over to the $20 and under section, we have Jedi Fallen Order at $10. Doom Eternal, that's the standard edition, down to $20. Need for Speed Heat is the deluxe edition at $14. We do have a new Need for Speed game coming up at the end of this year, so if you're just looking to maybe jump into a Need for Speed game to get you in the mood, that's a good pickup there. I really enjoyed Need for Speed Heat. Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition there at $20. Hades at $18.74. Infamous Second Son, which has actually aged pretty well. That's a good game to go back and have some fun with at $10 there. Death's Door at $13.99. And then Sleeping Dogs, $4.49. You know, that might be one of the best ways you can spend $4.50 right now. And the list goes on and on and on. Seriously, there's hundreds of games on sale for Golden Week and in that under $20 section. So take a look through and of course, leave some suggestions down below for games people should be checking out. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about PlayStation Now, potentially for like the last time as we roll into the new PlayStation Plus premium service that will start to launch in different territories at the end of May. It looks like some games are indeed expiring off of the PlayStation Now cloud service, and we can see this posted up. This over on PSU saying PS Now reportedly removing nearly 60 games ahead of PlayStation Plus revamp, and well, let's take a look. Now, the list they have here is broken up between PS4 and PlayStation 3, starting May 3rd and then moving on to May 17th. And there's gonna be a lot of trust here that hopefully some of these titles can return, because Metal Gear Solid 4, that was like the only real way to access it unless you just have a PlayStation 3. And I know that that's technically through cloud streaming. Not the best experience, but it's at least an experience you have access to. I don't know if Metal Gear Solid 4 is going to be coming back. I would like to assume that Metal Gear Solid in general, it being Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, 3, those will all become part of this service and they will be native experiences. That would be a really good way to at least set up the service day one. We have had some talks that there will be monthly additions to the PlayStation Plus premium tier, and I kind of expect that. They have a large library to pull from with the PS1, PS2, PS3, and PSP. So maybe 1 month it's like a couple of PSP games, maybe it's a couple of PS1 games, but it does kind of keep the mystery and anticipation up then. But I would really like to see just all these Metal Gear games available day one. Just set things up right away. Don't have us hope that eventually we see Metal Gear Solid 4 make the return. I would like to see it return as a native experience, but I also know that we have our expectations set currently with PS3 just being cloud streamed, as they are saying here. But at the very least, Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3 should be there. But you see all these games leaving, we hear that they're going to have certain selections for us, and you just got to cross your fingers and hope that any of these games you really enjoyed on PlayStation Now will return at some point. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're gonna take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, the PS5 and Xbox Series now both support VRR. Do you have a variable refresh rate enabled display? 27% said yes, 44% said no, and then 29% said I don't know. And this is one of those things that people would most likely have to look into if they're unaware of it, because I see people who hear about VR on the PS5 and they're like, oh, this is great, it's finally enabled. Then they realize they don't have a display that even supports it. And you're seeing higher end TVs or monitors come out that have VRR enabled, along with like a higher refresh rate, like 120 hertz as an example there, that would really take advantage of this feature for the PlayStation 5 with something like Spider-Man. But I think this is kind of where we're past the 4K question. If I run a poll tomorrow and I ask how many people have access to a 4K set, a lot of people are going to say, I do, but I don't necessarily have VRR support. Maybe that's something we see more standard going forward over the next several years with some of these TVs, because it does make a pretty big difference for some of these games that are a bit more unstable when it comes to their frame rate. So here's hoping it becomes something that we end up taking for granted over time, kind of like where 4K is now when it comes to TVs. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Eduardo saying, I miss the days when you would get a jam-packed disc from the magazine or those demo discs from Pizza Hut. It'd be kind of cool if they brought that back now that there's going to be an abundance of game trials, and maybe use these third parties to advertise PlayStation Plus. It doesn't have to be a disc, but maybe just a code for like 2 or 3 games even. I mean, back then we had the disc that would come with the magazine, and that was like the most exciting part. Yeah, it was fun to get the magazine and flip through it, but like everyone took the disc out immediately, put the magazine aside, and dropped that PS1 demo disc or PS2 or original Xbox. It was cool stuff back then, but I thought about it. I mean, those discs were technically paywalled. You had to buy the magazine and the disc, or participate in some sort of promotion with Pizza Hut, for example, where you got a PlayStation 1 disc. Basically, money had to exchange hands to get it, and I don't think any of these companies want to go back to having to press discs just to have you try their game, when they can just deliver it to you digitally through your console. You don't have to leave your house, you press a button, and there it is. But yeah, I really like the jam-packed discs or any of these demo discs, because you might get it for the one game that was kind of on the front of it, and then you discover all these different games you've never really heard of, and you go take your next trip to the rental store at Blockbuster, you see it, and you're like, you know, I'm gonna try that out. Just kind of opened you up to a lot of new possibilities with games. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here. Today was Switch Sports. Were you disappointed to see that the online functionality wasn't available to reviewers? And are you picking it up tomorrow? And then what about Microsoft and their latest sales report showing some pretty big moves for the Xbox when it comes to sales and the NPD charts? Then that big PlayStation Store sale that is currently ongoing. Leave some suggestions down below with some hidden gems. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.